You may be Captain America, but you're not Steve Rogers. I'm not.
That's a look at Captain America Brave New World, which hits theaters today. Now, this is the fourth installment of the Captain America series, and Anthony Mackie's Sam Wilson is picking up the shield. Harrison Ford also stars, making his MCU debut as newly elected president of the United States, Thaddeus Ross, and taking over the role from the late William Hurt. Of course, the big question is, will this movie break Marvel out of what seems to be like an extended slump? And you can hear Eli, who joins me here, Eli Glasner, laughing because you're going to break my heart.
Yes,
I'm a big Marvel fan, but in the commercial break, you and I talked about it hasn't been the same since the beloved Stan Lee. But Captain America.
Stan was the heart of the Marvel universe, and maybe that's what's missing, because you mentioned that slump, and let's be honest, you put aside the success of Deadpool and Wolverine, you go back, you remember the Marvels?
Yeah.
You remember Ant-Man 3? Like, it's beginning to feel like the Marvel movies were kind of like Blackberries and mini iPods, like a fun thing we did way back when. But here we are, Captain America, the fourth Captain America film. Did they delay the release date? Yes, they did. Did they do weeks of reshoots, stitching on an entire new villain? Yeah, they did. Here he is.
Captain America. Caught without his wings.
All right, so we got Giancarlo Esposito there as Sidewinder. Now, this is Anthony Mackie's first lead since inheriting the shield. What a time to be a symbol of American justice. Every day, President Trump smashing norms, declaring war on DEI. The thing is, Brave New World isn't brave, and it isn't new. I guess stale, toothless world didn't really have the same ring. There were more screenwriters working on this dreck than there were original Avengers. There were 8 writers bringing this to life. Now, we have a good director, Julius Ona. He made a wonderful film many years ago called Loose. But this is what they do. They take interesting, independent directors, and then they feed them in to that Marvel machine that, carefully sands away any aspect of individuality you had. This is a movie that assumes you did your homework. A movie involving characters from a 2008 Hulk movie I forgot existed. It also involves the epic disaster of the Eternals. Remember that? That's okay if you don't. And Captain America's own Disney Plus series, which might help you understand why the president wants to pass a treaty to mine some magic metal from a giant space god which is buried somewhere in the Indian Ocean. But maybe you say, Eli, what about Harrison Ford? We all love Harrison.
Indiana Jones.
Jones, upgraded, now President Thaddeus Ross. He was a general, now he's a president, looking to bring the country together. Sounds like what we need. Here he is, asking Cap to bring a new Avengers into being. Take a look.
When you passed the Sokovia Accords, you tore the Avengers apart. Why the change of heart?
I represent all Americans now. Hell, half of them wouldn't even be here without the Avengers. The country needs this.
And when we disagree on how to manage a situation, what happens then?
Figure it out together.
Well, spoiler, they don't. And nothing like a conversation about the Sokovia Accords to really kind of sell that tension. Right. So after a threat on the president's life, Sam goes off to investigate with the new Falcon while a big-brained baddie from the past is pulling the president's strings. Now, here's Anthony Mackie, charming actor as Sam Wilson, a.k.a. the new Captain America. I think he's at his best when he's kind of having a bit of fun, when he's joshing around. Even in this fight scene, I'll show you. He's got a bit of attitude there. Take a look.
Not that hard. I heard your rib go. You need a minute?
Nope. Let's get this over with. I got to do today.
Damn. Nobody saw that.
So that's your new Falcon, played by Danny Ramirez. You might remember him from the last Top Gun film, so he's having a bit of fun there. Mackie has no time to have fun. He has no time to kind of give us jokes and I think show us what he does best because he's too busy lumbering through this plotting plot and speechifying about the burden of expectations. And you might ask, like, will the politics meet the moment? Well, yeah, if the moment was 2002, but the politics in this film, like so much else, are surprisingly predictable and somewhat tame.
You know, you've been very elusive with how you feel about this film. But okay, so when I look at what you said, I like him as the Falcon. We talked about that.
Right, but he's not the Falcon anymore.
He's not the Falcon.
There's a new Falcon.
Harrison Ford, Air Force One, good president.
Sure.
We'll leave it at that.
A better film might have been able to do some illusions, maybe play with our expectations.
What was the action like in this film? Because it is a Marvel film, so there's got to be a lot of action.
Again, the film has kind of boxed itself into a corner because the thing about Sam Wilson, the new Captain America, played by Anthony, he doesn't have superpowers. He made a choice not to take the super serum. So he has that suit, and we have a couple kind of knockoff Top Gun scenes like this, where he's flying around. But much of the movie, frankly, is him just running around with his giant frisbee, punching and kicking people. So for the superhero film, it's not that super until the end, where we do get a Hulk of a new hue. But even that, I just wish the smashing started earlier.
Yeah. Please tell me he doesn't say I can do this all day. And I love that the fact that you called the shield a giant frisbee. With that being said, how many stars did you give this one?
All right, let's take a look. That would be a 2 out of 5 for Captain Blah America.
Okay, you know I'm going to have to go take my kids to see this. My son, well, my son is a huge Spider-Man fan, so it's all about the Spider-Man and whatnot, and he's kind of getting a little bit into DC
I will
as well,
let you know, because they like to know, there is one end credit scene at the very end.
Okay. A
bit of a tease, not essential, but if you want to sit through the credits, it is there. I'm sure your son will be happily distracted, but Anthony and Marvel fans like myself deserve better.
You would be amazed. He'll probably be just about as much of a critic as you are. Eli, thank you so much for this.
My pleasure.